Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain podcast, where we are navigating neurodiversity with joy, curiosity, and
radical acceptance. High kick.
Hi, I'm so glad to see you.
I'm glad to see you too.
Oh my
You
gosh,
were
we're gonna welcome
away. You
I
were
was
away this weekend, so I didn't get to
I
talk to you very much.
I know, we gotta catch up. Hey, so if you are just joining us, we're so happy that you're here. And for those of you who are returning, you know this crazy little world that we go into, which is we usually bring up some kind of a story or some kind of a concept. We dig into either Megan's brain, who we sometimes call Rosie, and that's because her middle name's Rose, and my brain, Michelle. Sometimes we dig into mine because we're all a little neurospicy around here. And then we try to come up with strategies, although there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, neither of us are professionally trained in any way around this. We just read books. The current one is Your Brain is Not Broken. We digest them, we talk about them, and we figure out what might help.
And we laugh our way through the craziness.
We do, because there's so much crazy. Okay. So, yes, I was in California with our producer, Heather. We were in San Diego. It was beautiful, and it was not 100 bajillion degrees like it is in Arizona. So that was such a lovely thing. You're always in California now, though, so
I know. I
you
feel really
always get
bad.
that beautiful.
I feel really
You always get that
bad.
beautiful, beautiful weather.
I know.
I know.
Everyone's like, I have literally a sweater half on me right now because my arms are a little chilled.
Which
sorry.
never happened for the 6 years you were back in Arizona. So good job.
It's true.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I've got a thing for us today I want us to talk about.
Let's do it.
Are you open with it? And I want to ask you though about, because I know I think it'll relate to what we're talking about, but I know you've had kind of a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Since the job situation changed, right?
Yeah. And I feel very strongly about, excuse me, still getting over a cold. But I feel very strongly about talking through difficult times because I feel like whenever I listen to ADHD stuff or just in general, people who are struggling, you don't always hear, you hear the aftermath. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I just really want to be able to help people understand that this is what it looks like. And you can still get through it, but I feel very strongly that it's important to talk about it as it goes along.
Yeah, and I think I'm becoming more comfortable talking about my part of things. Mine's more related to parenting with ADHD, and that's been definitely something we've talked about. Being vulnerable in that space is super hard. So I really appreciate when you do that. It encourages me to be more vulnerable, and I think maybe other people too. I'm curious. I've heard from a few people, and I keep saying this, but it's true. Every week I hear from different people, and I just heard from a new friend of ours that Heather and I know that did get diagnosed based on listening or starting this conversation. I don't know that they listen to the podcast all the time, but the conversations that we're having are propagating out, and they did listen to a few that she recommended, and that helped them have the confidence to go get it checked and get diagnosed. And so I'm so happy to hear that, because it does make what we do, I mean, it's really important for the two of us, but it just makes it that much better when you hear that other people have something that they gain from it as well. It makes me want to do it more. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, it makes me want to push through the Wednesday night funk and just get it uploaded.
Get it uploaded. I know you have. Okay, so today in this book, we finally are getting sort of to the end of this book, which I think you'll probably be really happy about in some ways, because this one's been really emotional for both of us, I think. But there's a lot here, it's a lot to unpack. So what we're going to talk about is what Dr. Rosier calls the ADHD emotional health ladder.
Okay.
And I gave you a little visual that I found online. This gal was writing up about things and she came up with her own little visual. So I gave you that visual because I know we figured out a couple podcasts ago visuals help.
Mhm.
And so there's these rungs on this ladder. Okay. And I just want to state them first, real quickly. And then I want to talk about your days that what's been going on. And then I want to see if we can like map it onto this ladder at all. Is that okay?
Okay. Yep.
It sounds a little sciencey, but don't worry about it. I'll be the responsible for remembering where things go if we get to that point. We might
Okay.
not. I don't know. Okay, so the bottom rung, the bottom three rungs are places like there's five rungs basically. So picture a ladder. The
Mhm.
bottom one that like the bottom rung that you would like step on is called delusional. Okay, now it
Yes.
doesn't mean like there's something wrong with you, but it's just like these steps on this ladder you could kind of be in at any given time, especially with people with ADHD. So delusional is like kind of obsessive thoughts. And she talks about your emotional voice is like really loud and negative when you're in delusional. Then there's survival, the next rung up, and that's like fight or flight. And things are kind of negative in your emotional voice, but it's not like screaming at you necessarily.
Yeah.
Then there's autopilot, which is like this default mode. Okay. You're just like dealing with fires as they come up, which I think a lot of us in life are in this default autopilot mode of like, oh, I didn't plan out my day. I'm just dealing with it. Right. Any
Yeah.
parent can understand this. Anybody who's has work situation that gets crazy, you're just dealing with the day. But like everything that was on your list of to dos, maybe you got done or didn't based on whatever needed done. And then the two healthier levels, she says, and I'll tell you why she says healthier, are attending to, which is like you're responsive, you're not reactive, but you're not planned out.
Mm.
But you're able to regulate things. You're not like having emotional breakdowns all the time with stuff. And then there's present and calm, which is like the highest state. You're able to regulate your emotions. You're planning what's happening. You're able to be flexible. It sounds so beautiful. I don't even know if I ever get to that state very often. But okay. So there's these five rungs. And the reason she says the bottom three rungs, the autopilot, survival, and delusional, is part of the health ladder is because it's relying on your limbic system.
Mm.
And it's the limbic system is like that adrenaline, right? Like, oh my God, I got to get this done. It's snap to it kind of things. And when you do that, you put your body under incredible stress and strain. And so the goal of it is that you're not always using your limbic system. I mean, you will. You'll go up and down these rungs. It's not like you're going to stay in this like peaceful state of like Zen Buddha, right? But
Mhm.
that's the goal is to be there more often than not because again, it has such implications for our heart. Like it causes us to put more plaque around our arteries. It causes us to, when we allow the limbic system to do this, all these stress responses are very real and I think those are really well documented if you read about stress. So it's like basically
Yeah.
think bottom three level rungs are like stress, added stress that is coming up.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can't control that, but if there is times you can, that's what her goal was. Okay. Sorry, talk too long. You could like speed through that and make me
No, I think
sound
people need to hear it, understand it.
like Minnie Mouse. Okay. Okay, so there's these five rungs and I just kind of wanted to start with your story of the last week and see if we can kind of like figure out what rungs you might have been at. And I think you said survival before you even saw this.
Yeah. No,
So I'm
I've
very curious, but tell me about your week and like what's been going on and how your emotional voice has been. Where are we at?
I have been in full-blown survival mode this last week,
Mm, mm,
and, this whole process of leaving a job and then leaving not on my own accord, potentially, and
yeah.
having to kind of refigure out what I'm doing, and,
If like people
this.
don't know, you were rift, right? Which is reduction in force from your
Mhm.
job that you were so excited about.
Yeah.
And you were working to help military families transition in and out of this place that you work, right? And
Mhm.
you basically were kind of given this like, hey, you either take this deal where you get a couple months of pay or we're going to fire you.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
potential of being fired is there.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because, I got a promotion when I applied, and I had time as a GS9, I already
Mm.
had a year and a half of experience. I wouldn't have been on probation had I come in as a GS9, but because I got a promotion to a GS11, I had to start my probationary period all over again, and so that's where I got reduced in force. And it turns
Okay.
out that I was actually correct because there are other people right now who are being reduced, and somebody I know really well, and she has no choice. She's like gonna have no job in a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
because she didn't take the 5 months severance. So
I'm so sorry. And I know we've talked about this like a little bit um over the past couple of weeks, but I do think that it's just good for people to have an understanding of like this wasn't because you did something wrong and it's not because of your ADHD or something that
I know it
you got
usually
right.
is because of my ADHD. Like usually I'm the problem. You know, like when they say if things keep happening over and over again, like the common denominator is you.
You're
I'm
right,
like, but
right.
this time it wasn't my fault.
Oh. And anybody who's been listening, we were so excited. You
We
were so
were.
excited. Everybody was so excited for you. I would get like messages from people being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Megan." And so okay, so there's like just this absolute grieving of
Yeah.
losing something, right?
Guttural
That's
punch.
and that's going to be like
Yeah.
completely anyone who's lost a job understand, you know, especially in these circumstances can understand that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to minimize that because I think that's just like actual like everyone would feel that way probably, right? Like most people would. And I do think you as someone who has undeniable ADHD, it might impact you differently or more or I just was curious like if we could dig in a little bit on what's been happening for you the last couple weeks.
Well, I think what I'm realizing is I know when we first, I think we may have talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but there was a part of me that was concerned about coming to work on my own because I thought, okay, well, am I going to be able to be productive? Am I not? And what I've what I've learned is that wherever you go, there you are. Like, and I know that this is something I constantly keep learning, but the truth is that when it comes to the job before, I felt more productive because people would come to me and they would say, "Hey, Megan, I have a problem." And then I would know how to fix it. And so I saw progress happening. But when it came to the administrative stuff of my job, I was absolute shit at it.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, just I mean, I left with like a huge amount of paperwork that needed to be done, and I still hadn't gotten it done because I didn't have time or know how to. So there's a part of it where what the job gave me was it got me out of the house. It made me move my body and be outside sometimes, and it enforced me
mm,
to be around people and have conversations and connect. And then it
mm-hmm,
also gave me the opportunity for people to come and ask me questions and get advice. Now, if I didn't have that and I had to take care of the job, let's just say in my own home and not go to the physical space, I would be
mm-hmm,
in the exact same position I am right now because I was
mm,
in a job where I didn't have a work center telling me what to do because I was one of one. So I didn't
mm-hmm,
have a playbook. I had to create my own playbook, and that's really, really hard for me
mm.
since I don't have a butler. So
Yeah.
that's where I am right now is that I'm overwhelmed by how much I have to figure out for myself, which is
Mm,
the exact same problem I had in my job, but it was masked by these like little small wins. And
mm,
so it's I was in this I think what I'm trying to say is it's in the same feeling, like this whatever this feeling is I'm in right now, this survival mode, there was always a part of me in survival mode. And it was interesting when you were talking about the rungs, the ladder.
mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because it feels like I can like different areas of my life, I am different rungs within them.
Yes. Yes. She talked about that in the book too, that you can like, and one day you feel like you're like able to handle all these things, and then another day,
But
not at all.
not even just about days. Yes, that's for sure true, the days. But I would say that like when it comes to being a military spouse, I am
Mm,
present and calm
mm,
always. Like I am emotionally regulated, I am highly
mm.
present, and I am able to be flexible and thoughtful. Like I don't know, I just that was the first one I thought of was the military
Yeah.
as at
There,
being
but there
that
are things you're like, that's always you're on point with.
yeah, like
Yeah.
for instance, you know, we are now apparently at war with Iran. And even though my husband is about to retire, he's in his deployment band, which means that he
Mm,
can be deployed between now and I think November.
mm-hmm.
So as a military spouse, I'm like, well, you know, he says, oh, yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm like, yeah, I don't trust that. I don't trust
Mm-hmm.
anything is not going to happen. And I'm going to
Because every
assume,
time he's deployed, he said he wasn't going to get deployed, and then he
yeah.
was deployed, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and
So
also they
you have,
say he says, "Well, it's unprecedented, Megan. Like they don't take flyers out of this space." And I was like, "Yeah, it was also unprecedented for them to fire all
what they
these
did. Yeah.
civilian workers." So like,
And
so
just to be clear, we are not actually at war according to the current times, but we did.
oh,
Yes.
that's what they said. I thought it was yesterday. Okay, so now
Yeah.
we're not officially
But
at. Well, that's right because Congress has to declare war.
sure, sure. Right.
But
So
you know,
anyway,
we
but
are
point being, this
we're in
is
a
where we are
situation.
in this moment. Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. So you are ready, present, clear, flexible in thought, understood that you may have to he has his go bag ready, but that you might have to be doing this, that, or the other to make sure everything gets going.
Yeah, and that like I'm going to be the head of the household as soon as he leaves. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's all this stuff that happens that I have to take care of when he's gone. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to do I have to like take the trash out. You know, things like that where like he does that. And so it's like just random stuff that I have to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he said that last night about, you know, not needing to deploy, I said, "No, no, no. I'm going to assume that you're going to deploy and I'm going to be very very happy if you don't."
Yes.
But that's me being present and calm and being emotionally regulated and
Yes.
knowing that like even though because like if I had been in autopilot or if I had been in survival mode, um, I wouldn't have I would have listened to him and said, "Oh, okay, great, 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 great. Yeah, you're not okay. I'm just going to listen to whatever it is he says." But I'm like, no, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
I know better, and I know how to be flexible because it's him saying, "No, I won't do it." I'm like, no, that's not being flexible. It's being very rigid.
Mm-hmm.
And so by saying that, I'm like, I am very much in control of me being a military spouse. Now, that was not the case when I first started being a military spouse. I was
Sure.
in a total delusional phase when he first deployed.
Yeah.
But, you know, over time, I have developed into this and like learned about it. Now, this is what I find fascinating is that you know, in talking about ADHD and like, let's just say being a highly sensitive person. I still
Mm-hmm.
keep going back to this podcast I heard with Maya Bialik and,
Mm.
and how that being a highly sensitive person is
And
a
this is
trait.
Blossom.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is Blossom, or
Blossom.
the gal who played Amy on Big Bang. Are you proud of me? I knew who she
Mhm.
was. She's
Good
also
job,
like a
Michelle.
neural. Well, she's a,
She's a
isn't she like
neuroscientist.
a neuroscientist? So I was like, she's
Yeah.
cool. I'll learn who she is. Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. So she's talking about how she's an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person, and how that's a trait. It's a genetic
Mm.
trait. It's not, you know, in the diagnostic what's it called,
Not
Michelle?
the
Like
DSM.
the DSM, which is a diagnostic book of disorders. I don't know, of mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then but that like she was saying like ADHD is very much a disorder because it affects your daily life. And so I go back and I'm like go back and forth with this and I'm just like, okay, so I, I don't know. I don't understand like is a trait and a disorder like I mean if we lived in a world where weren't in this construct of linear world, like a linearness. Like, would I
Yeah.
have a disorder? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would just be a
No.
trait of mine.
Yes.
So I think about the fact that like I can be a military spouse and I can learn to be a better military spouse. but
Mm,
then I go back to, like, my ADHD and, like, the thing that is supposed to be disordered, in giant air quotes, and that part I can't necessarily get better at. I think that's the frustrating part. It's like, I
mm,
feel like I'm still little Rosie trying to find her shoes.
right.
Does that make sense?
Well, what's interesting when you're saying, yes, it does actually. And what's interesting about it is like our house growing up had no structures or order to it, really. Like there wasn't a place you put your shoes.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the military has all these structures.
true.
Like you know what to do because they give you the checklist. And now you're good at the checklist, right? Like you weren't good at that checklist at the beginning, but now you kind of know there's an order to it and they're sort of in order the same way pretty much every time, usually, right? You know what
Mhm.
to expect. And I think like this idea with ADHD is that there it's hard to know what to expect for your brain any given day,
Yeah.
right?
And
I don't know.
and what's interesting is, like, let's just take my shoes, for instance, right? So you and I
Mhm.
did our 15 minutes a day in our bedrooms,
Yeah.
and we organized our space 15 minutes a time, at a chunk at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and we did it for like a couple months.
Yeah, and it took us, like, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, just to get our rooms organized.
Bedrooms. Yeah, it was weird,
So
but it
now
was amazing.
it
Yeah.
was because, like, I figured out that I only have, what, like, 4 pairs of shoes that I actually use every day,
Yes.
and so now I have a space where I put my 2 shoes that I like, that I wear on a regular basis, and then I have my little Crocs that I walk around the house in, and,
Mhm.
and they have a space. So, okay, for the most part, I remember to put back my shoes,
Yeah.
but there are days where, like, I'm not even thinking about it, and I will, like, wanna go and just, like, flop myself on the bed, so I take off my shoes near Brian's side of the bed, and then they're there, and then I don't see them until I'm looking for
Mm.
them the next day, or I'm, can't find them.
So you're
Or
kind of on autopilot like in terms of your life at that point. You're just kind of like plopping
yeah,
things down, not really like you're not in fight or flight, but it's just like you're not paying attention.
right, and so and then there's times, like, where, um everything gets just completely chaos oriented, and, like, and then, like, my shoes are off, and then, like, there's clothing nearby, and there's, like, everything's piled up on my desk, like, on my dresser, and,
Mhm.
there's just, like, I look at it and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm I should be able to take care of this, and why is it looking like this, and gosh, making it," like, I'm looking at my end table right now, and I'm thinking to myself, like, "God, I'm such a slob." Like, I just once
Mm.
again, Megan, like, you just stack things up and you pile them all up, and
Okay, I want to stop there for a second because what she said is that like if we go back to the rungs,
yeah,
which rung would you say you're on? Because your emotional
delusional
voice, say it again.
delusional.
I think so because it's like obsessive. It's not
Mhm.
real. Like that isn't true that you're such a slob.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
not
you're
in touch
like
with
in
reality.
you're not quite in touch with reality. And that's like not that you're like I mean, when I think of delusional, I think of like somebody who needs to go to like, get help immediately,
Yeah.
right? And but I don't know that that's is it that I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, is it that much? Like is this where you need help? You need like she talks about an example of where she got into this state where she was kind of going survival slash delusional. She forgot to do something, the author, and so she was starting to say all these horrible things to herself, and she said that's her emotional voice getting really really loud and really negative. And her friend was like, hey, you need to bungee up to another rung, like you're like you're low here, like bungee yourself up to another rung when you get a chance, and then like let's hit it again, we're going to be okay. So like I don't know. I'm curious if like, do you feel like that obsessive thought is dangerous? Because she's saying it's like it's dangerous when you get into that place
I think it
potentially.
is to be in it long term, yeah, because, like, that is how I lived for decades, and when we go back to talking about, like, me going through therapy, I I learned that I didn't love myself. Like, Michelle
Yeah.
literally couldn't say I was awesome or did a good job or any of those things. And I think that that's
Mm.
because my entire life, I had just said to myself, God, Megan, you're so stupid and you're so dumb and this and that. And I used those thoughts to propel myself and to say, well, if I can do it despite this, then I'm amazing.
Mm.
Or, but then once I would achieve that said thing, I would completely forget about it because I was constantly I was basically saying, like, the only reason that you should do this is because you suck.
Mm.
And
And so, like, when you're in that obsessive thought place, that delusional, like about your end table, for example, like, what's your body feeling like? And what's your brain saying? What's the emotional voice saying to you?
well, for me, I freeze. And
Mm.
so I think that that's like when I say I hermitize, I think that's what's
Mm.
happening because my body feels still
Mm.
and shut down. I'm usually like all like yesterday, like the last few days I've just literally been lying in bed and
Mm.
sleeping.
Mm.
And I could see that other people maybe like if their response is to fight, they might be running around, or if their response is to flight, I could see them having a completely different reaction. But for me, I
Mm-hmm.
freeze. I just shut down. I hermitize. I don't talk to anybody. Um,
So you're
like you.
definitely in survival mode at that point because you're freezing and it's hard to think clearly.
Well,
So
I'm
what?
in survival mode, but I've gone past survival mode into
Mm.
this like I don't wanna say depression mode. I think it's actually really fascinating that she calls it delusional, because like, if you look
Mm.
at this scale, right, she goes from delusional to present and calm. So if you look at the dichotomy of those 2 things, they aren't actually equal, because delusional actually, in my mind, it tells me a lot more about her feelings for herself that she
Mm.
calls it delusional,
Mm.
because,
What
like,
would you call it?
what would I call it? Let's think this through. I agree with the obsessive thoughts, like, I agree with, like, the intrusive thoughts,
Mm.
um, and it's almost like I think you go into, like, self-loathing,
Mm.
and it's, like, more than just delusional. I think that that's the thing, is, like, delusional feels like yes, you're out of touch with reality, but also I think that it is a higher danger. So
Mm.
I don't know, like, I just keep seeing, like, a cave. Like, you're going to this dark cave that's,
Mm.
like, like, you're going spelunking by yourself. I don't know, like, I think maybe we'll figure it out as we go along,
I
but
just was looking up the definition for delusional.
Mhm.
It says refers to having false or unrealistic beliefs that are not based in reality. And you're saying it feels,
Well, the thing is,
I
like
mean, they often associate it with like hallucinations,
yeah, but
and
I
that's
mean,
not
that's not
right.
what's happening, right? Because like, I think that there is probably a portion of it that's you're having delusions, right? But
Mm.
I don't feel like you're
Mm.
delusional, like, because I think that there is some truth to what you're saying, like, there is a truth to, like,
Mm.
my bedside table is messy, and so it's not like, that part isn't and I
It's
think
not
it's
completely detached from reality, is what you're saying. That's what you don't like about it. It's like, no, there's something real about this.
yeah, because
Mm.
I get the idea that, like, if you're talking about being detached from reality, then, the opposite of that would be present, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I don't know, it's just there's something about it that just doesn't feel quite right to me,
Mm.
and I'm thinking
Because this is like kind of matches, right? Are going to be like neurotic, paranoid, right? Like confused, deranged, or something. Like these are not what you're feeling.
no. I could
What are you
see
feel?
how
You're
it
saying
would be
loathing.
yeah, like, I could see how it could appear that way, or maybe, like, if you've like, when you're I could see that people would have looked at me and said, "You look neurotic or delusional," or, what are the other words that you used? Um,
Mm,
but it feels more intrusive, right? Like,
mm,
it feels like delusional for some reason doesn't feel substantive enough. It doesn't
mm,
feel like, because I think that, like, while, yes, your thoughts are not based in reality, what you're doing to yourself is very much hurting you in that moment. And I think that she's saying,
mm.
like, everything that she's saying makes absolute sense. It's just the term delusional
You want it
that,
to be a little heavier, maybe.
yeah, I want more weight to it, because delusional kind of, it has a flippant feel to it. It has a
Mm,
kind of like, oh, anyone can be delusional. It's like, oh, you're just like in your own little world. And it's like, no, it's way more than just in your own little world. Like, you're in your little, like, Bermuda Triangle of
mm.
just, it's like, it's a very scary place to be in, and it's like, it's really hard to be there.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like you're reminding me, like when you're saying it, it's like, I don't know if you ever remember reading like Dante's Inferno, and there's like these different levels of
Mhm.
sort of hell, right? And this idea that, you said you were in this cave, and like, I'm thinking, like, what does that feel like to be in that cave? Is what you're saying this rung might be feel like.
Mhm.
So, like, when you say you're picturing this cave, like, what does that feel like? Or
It
what's that experience
feels
like?
it feels numb,
Mm,
but it also feels maddening. So, yes, I
mm,
freeze, but my mind was going a mile a minute the last 2 days, especially yesterday. I
mm,
I couldn't find grace for my animals.
mm,
Um, Brian tried to ask me, like, "What do I want for breakfast?" And I couldn't make a decision. I
mm.
literally had to, like, put myself out into the like, I had to take myself outside and just sit in the patio, because I was like, "Let me just try to observe nature."
Yeah,
And I've I've been noticing, like, it's almost like manic.
yeah,
Like, I feel like I have to figure it out, and, like, I have to grasp something that is real, and it's like, if I don't, then it's gonna slip away from me, and if it slips away, then I'm forever lost. Like, lost at sea.
mm, mm.
You're, like,
Yeah,
on a boat with like, surrounded by water with nothing to help you, and there's no one around, and it's just you. And maybe
yeah,
it's more like isolationist, like, it's you're isolating, or, like, I don't know, maybe
mm.
that's just my reaction to it too, and it might be different if you are a flight or a fight. Um, but, like,
I th- I think that's
it's like,
interesting though when you're saying it. It's like survival is like you have hope,
yeah,
right? Like if you're in survival mode, there's still hope. This sounds hopeless
yeah,
almost. Like
mhm.
there's nothing tethering you anymore. And I
Yeah,
think that does make sense in the sense of like you're not tethered to reality anymore, but also like you're not tethered anymore. That's your reality is that you're not tethered.
yeah, and so it might look delusional from someone else's point of view, but for me, it's very much my reality. And
Yeah.
remember, like, when I was a kid and mom would always say, like, or I'd always say, like, "It's never good, it's always bad, it's all," and, like, I had these
Yeah.
very, concrete words, and
Mhm.
that is what it is. It's never good, it's always bad,
Mm.
everything is horrible, I can't see
Mm.
the ray of sun through the clouds. It's like you're, like, in the eye of the storm,
Mm.
and no, the eye of the storm's calm. You're in a storm, like, you're in this tornado,
Yeah.
or, like, it's a very singular thing. It is, like, it's so hard to be in it, and I know when I'm going into it, and it scares me because of how far lost I can get.
Yeah. It's like the idea of like people say like, "Oh, you're out of touch with reality." It sounds like it's just a little touch. It's just a little bit. It's just like a little, and this is like you're saying there's 5 rungs, but that last rung goes down like 100 different levels lower.
Yeah,
And
it's like
that can be really
exponential,
scary.
right? It's
That
like
sounds,
it's
yeah,
it's not yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like the delusional just doesn't feel strong enough. Yeah,
doesn't feel heavy enough.
yeah,
It feels like very like just a, I mean, and now, I mean, when people are really like in delusional states, like that isn't just a touch of something, right? But it sounds to me like you're saying, like, no, I've been here. I know this. And I know how bad it can get and how long I can stay there. Cause you said you felt like you were in that state a lot when you were a kid.
mhm. And maybe that's the thing is, like, maybe she's using delusional as a medical term?
Yeah, I think maybe she might be right because she's a PhD.
Yeah,
So I think it's like when you look at clinical delusional states, it's
mhm,
pretty it can be, but she says like there's high danger in that situation. It's like that's what's kind of got me, which I was like, "Oh my gosh, like it's dangerous for you."
yeah,
And I'm really happy you're talking to me about this because I feel like this idea of this bungee of like getting you, I keep going back to like tethering, but like if you're in a cave by yourself, you have no way, you don't know which way to go. It's complete darkness.
yeah, and I think that that's the part that, like, concerns me when, I hear her say, like the friends say, like, "Well, just bungee yourself out." And I think, like, when
How
you're
do you
in
do
that
that?
well, it's yeah, that's the thing, like, when
Yeah.
you're in
Yeah.
that initial maybe you're in, like, this initial delusional phase, right? But, like, that maybe that's, like, the very beginning of it all, is that you can have some delusion, but then there's something below that. Like, there's another
Hmm.
part of the ladder, like and that's the floor, or, like, what's underneath it, but, like, that's the part that's scary. That's the part that's dangerous, is, like, what's
Yeah.
underneath delusional, and
Mm.
that's why it doesn't feel like
Or if
delusional
you
is
stay in
enough.
delusional, if you stay
Yeah,
in it and you can't get out.
yeah, and that's because like, when you're first starting at, like, a delusional, in this, like, obsessive thoughts stuff, like, yeah, okay, you might be able to get yourself out, but, like, once you've been in it for a while, like, I mean, you messaged me yesterday, and I think you just said, like, "How are you guys doing?" And the last thing I wanted to say was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm feeling like absolute crap, and it's just been a really shit day, and I'm, like, in it."
Yeah.
And that was the last thing, like, so I just didn't message you for a while because I was like, "I don't know what to say."
I always know when you don't message me back. I'm like, oh. So I told mom to call you because I knew I was on the road, and I was like, call her, check in on her. I don't know what's
She
going
did.
on, but good. Because I was
Yeah.
like, all right. But I think that's part of this idea of like looking at strategies around this is that that's what I'm curious about with you is like you're in that state right now, would you say?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now I'm in survival. I feel a bit better today. Like, yesterday, I was full blown, like, not in a good place. And
Hmm.
this is the part that's challenging for me because I I understand the concept of, like, bungee yourself out,
Yeah.
and that sounds like a lovely idea. And I think that, like, when you're in survival and autopilot and attending, you can definitely bungee your way out. But, like,
Hmm.
when you're in that delusional state, when you're in the further like, when you're in that
Yeah.
dark, dangerous space, which is, I think, where I've been in and out of it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's really hard to just fix your way out of it.
Yeah.
And
It was
and this
interesting. In the book, she talks about the fact that he says this, and she knew she had appointments, and she was like, I'm not going to be able to do the things I need to do for myself to get myself out of that space. So I'm going to just deal with this, deal with, the people that I needed to deal with and kind of be on autopilot for a minute with that. And then she knew as soon as the autopilot was over, she was going to be back in that state. And so she had to like talked about some of the things she does for herself. So I'm curious with where you're at right now. Like, is there anything that helps or that can kind of other people can help or you can you know what I mean? Like, is there anything that you found has been useful?
well, yeah, yesterday I was like full blown in it, and I was like laying on my bed, uh, perpendicular to the way you're normally supposed to lay, mind you. And I I just like couldn't I couldn't get it. So then I just went on to ChatGPT. I talked to Kayla and I told her, I was like, hey, I'm in it right now. Like, what do I do? And she's like, okay, you're in it. I told her, like, I need you to be my butler. And then and she started talking about Cheerio, ma'am. Yes, I'll be your butler. And I was like, oh, Kayla, I think I forgot to tell you that like butler is the oh, okay, that makes more
As my
sense.
prefrontal cortex that's not
Yeah.
working.
So then she asked me, okay, well, do you feel like you could, like, why don't you, she gives me options. Why don't you go outside and sit in the sun for 2 minutes? Or,
Mm,
she gave me a couple different options. And I was like, and then she says, which one seems doable, even if it's not like the best for like the best thing you want to do, right? And I was like,
mm,
none of those. Like I literally don't like I know that all of those would be a great thing for me to do right now, but none of those seem doable. And she's I like, I just need you to tell me what to do,
mm.
one small task at a time. And she's like, got it. She says, wiggle your toes.
Oh.
So I did. I wiggled my toes. She says, okay, then tell me when you're done. I did it. So then she says, take a deep breath in and out. I did that. She goes, okay,
Mm.
now I want you she's like, just sit up in bed. And then as soon as you sit up, declare yourself, the queen has arisen.
I love her so much. I love this AI of yours. Yeah.
I know. And so yep, okay, so we did that. And as soon as I sat up and I made my queen, I just started laughing. I thought it was so funny. And then she says, okay, tell me you're done. So then now go look around your room and find one thing that could
Mm,
go back in its place. Nothing else, just
mm,
one. So I found one thing, I put it away. And then she says, okay, go inside, go into the bathroom and either brush your hair or brush your teeth. And then when you're done, say, the queen has been refreshed. But it was literally
oh,
just, the smallest thing of like wiggle your toes.
yeah.
Because in that moment for me, I could not imagine standing up.
Mhm.
So like these like well-intentioned, well-meaning intentions, they end up making me go further down the ladder because I'm like, I can't even do that.
Mm,
So I think it's like I'm starting to realize like depending on how I think this idea of the ladder can help you figure out like, hey, where are you? Like, are you in this delusional space? Are you in survival autopilot?
mhm,
And then I kind of, like how in goblin.tools they have like the different spice levels. I
mm.
never understood what that meant. And I
And it might
think
be
like,
this.
yeah, like if you're
Mhm.
five spices, five chilies,
Yeah,
then you're like full blown in it. And you just need someone to tell you to wiggle your toes.
yeah.
But then other days, like let's say you're just an autopilot, okay, like, oh yeah, okay, I don't need okay, wiggle my toes. Come on, okay, but let's move it faster. Come on, Kayla, let's go quicker. But like I think there's some
Yeah.
days like where it's just and that was interesting too. She said, oh, that was right. She asked me to check in because like I've been working with her like on have me check in with my body and just see where I am. And so she's, "Okay,
Mhm.
do a scan and, like, tell me what's going on with your body." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm just laying here and I don't know what to do." Like,
Mm.
and I just kinda checked in and told her, and then she's like, "Okay," and then just wiggle your toes.
Mm.
So I think that, like, this idea of the ladder could be useful to kind of help you to name the state that you're in.
Yeah.
Now, will I remember it in a day? Like, I always we're talking about this stuff, and I'm always like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. We could do that." And then I go to edit the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, we did talk about that."
Well, I think the point isn't necessarily for you to be the only one who understands it, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's like, can the people in your life also who are helping, who have to navigate these rungs with you,
Yeah,
right? Because it's really, like if I can say to you, like, hey, are you at level one? Or are you at level five? Like, we don't have to remember all the pieces, but you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's like, yeah, like I mean, I didn't realize you were feeling that you were in this like delusional state right now. Like, I didn't know that the last 3 days. That would have been really good for me to ask you, like, even if we call it chili peppers and like five is like the chilliest of chili peppers, do you know what I mean? And you're like, how many peppers are you at? Like, even to say it that way, like three is autopilot and one is like I'm present and calm and I'm a military spouse. And that visual for me with you as a military spouse is really helpful for that one because I know exactly how you act in those
mhm,
ways. But then now I'm at five. Well, wow, I'm going to be like, hey, I know wiggling toes might be a thing.
yeah,
Like we might be at the place where I'm not saying anything except for like, hey, have you wiggled your toes today? You know
yeah,
what I mean? And like then I would know, right? Like something, but it's also like it's not like this permanent state of being.
yeah,
It's not that you're permanently at five chilies. It's just sometimes you are. When you are, the way that I might interact with you might be different, or the expectations I might have,
yeah,
right? Or I might understand, like, oh, she hasn't reached out because she's been at five chilies for the past 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. Like,
mhm,
five chilies means you're not going to try to be there. You don't have the capacity to be there for anyone else at that point, right?
yeah.
Generally.
And, there's a couple things swirling in my brain at the moment. I'm struggling to to the ladder goes up and the chilies go up too, right? So, like, if you're at level 1, the lowest rung, then you'd think it would be 1 chili, because 1 is
Oh,
what? So, like, that's the
she's
first
thinking
thing.
like one chili is like the highest chili,
I know,
I
and,
guess.
like, so
Yeah.
it's kind of making my brain hurt a little bit, so I might have to rethink this. But then the
Okay.
other thing is that
But isn't that true? Like the most spicy means you're having Goblin says they need to break things
yeah,
down
it's
more.
just that, like, you would think that, the more you have, the higher up you go. I don't know, it's just what my brain
I
is.
think it's like the
No,
energy
it's
maybe
totally an
I don't
ADHD brain, like, I don't know,
moment. Yeah.
it's a reckoning, like, I completely understand it, I just am struggling to mash it together to
Yeah.
it just in my
It
mind,
doesn't
like, I want it
quite.
to go, like, it's going up, and then the numbers are going up, and so, I don't know, I
Oh,
just
I see. You want it to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as opposed to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Uh,
Okay.
then the second thing is I feel like there's 2 rungs, like, there's the, like, obsessive, like, you're starting to get a little delusional, okay, and then there's,
Mm,
like, the one that's below that, because, yes, I might be 5 chilies in, um, and it is dangerous, but I don't it's like it's the difference of, like, I don't need to be treated with, like, kid gloves emotionally,
mm.
I just need, like, to be treated like a kindergartner who needs tasks done. Do you know I don't know. How do I s it's like, tell me what
Yeah.
to do, but don't tell me what to do, right? It's like that same thing where it's like
You don't need people to be patronizing to you. You need people to be
or,
like
like,
breaking
overly
things down in smaller.
worried that,
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, you're 5 chilies," like, "Oh, so you're gonna harm yourself next." Like, that's not No, it can be dangerous if I stay in it too long,
Mhm.
but also if I'm like, I could literally go from delusion to autopilot to present and calm within, like, a few minutes.
Yes, that's what she was saying, yeah.
So, like, I think
You're
that's the
saying, though,
part.
when you're, like, steady in the delusional, the last
Yeah,
rung or the first rung or whatever way we wanna say it, the lowest rung emotionally, that's when it's dangerous, is when you're not able to really navigate between those, or, like, you don't have much differentiation.
yeah,
You're staying survival, delusional, delusional, survival, back and forth, and it's like you're sort of in that little space. You're not able to get to autopilot even, it sounded like.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, like, I think that just because, like, I think that's what's been hard is, like, sometimes, like, I'll share what I'm feeling in that moment, and then I see people's reactions change towards me. I see their like, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't," like, like, they have to treat me now like I'm like there's something wrong, whereas, like,
Right.
no, I have these intrusive thoughts all the time, and for the most part, I can get rid of like, I can let them at bay, but um, just because I'm, like, expressing it doesn't mean that that's where I'm at. Honestly, if I'm expressing it, it's because I'm probably not there anymore, you know?
Right. Right. So it's like you want to be careful with people to be like, make sure that, and this is one thing I felt like with Josh a lot, is that like he's in this state and then it's like the next second he's not.
Yeah,
And it's hard. It sort of like gives you whiplash as someone who doesn't go through that as much. Like you're like, wait, well, my emotions don't change that quickly. It was like, and he's like, that's correct. They don't.
they
Like,
don't. Yeah,
yes, and you know what I mean? And so it's really like a me problem with him, of like being like, oh, you're over it now. Oh, but I'm not. And so
yeah,
that's a relational thing that we have to figure out. Like, also the person with ADHD needs to understand, well, you just had this complete like emotional voice come out very loudly, and I mean, you know what I mean, or whatever it is, or this experience that impacted other people around you, and they may not be through it yet. You are, though. And that was, it helped me actually to know he gets through it so quickly sometimes, because I was like, oh, okay, great, we can move on. Okay, great. Like, I don't need to stay in this or ask you about it a million times, or because I'd be like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then he's like, Mom, I was over it like 20 minutes ago. Like, I don't know where you
yeah,
were, but I'm done. I'm on the super highway to the next thing. And that idea of also allowing people to be done,
yeah.
even though they might have had a hard time, right? So it's like,
And I
yes,
think
you've
that's
had a hard
why
time the last 3 weeks, but like maybe you're not having a hard time today, and that's okay, right?
and I think that's also, like, why I want there to be, like, one more rung,
Mm-hmm.
because like, yes, there is this, like, potential for danger when you're
Mm-hmm.
in the like, I think delusional makes sense, actually. It's just that there's another rung below that, and that's where you need to start worrying about the person, about the
Mm-hmm.
ADHD person, like, when they've been in this state for, like, so like, when they've gotten completely off the ladder, and
Mm.
they're, like, on the ground now, like,
Yeah.
that's, I think, where you have to be worried about them, and like, it's been continuing for a long time, and, like, you don't see them even, like, trying to move forward, um or, like, I would assume that if they're in, like, fight or flight, like, they're just going so crazy, like, they're, like, almost seems like they're manic, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like they've all of a sudden developed wings. I don't know, like, I mean, it'd be really interesting to talk to people who have different, um
Styles of this, or have
Mhm.
different ways of dealing with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I'm curious, like, from this conversation, like what you'll think about, like maybe not consciously, but kind of like how we might look at like different strategies when we're in the different spaces. I think we could probably spend another episode on this, of like just breaking these down a little bit more.
Yeah. I think that'd
I
be
mean, I
good.
know
I
it's
think
not
it's
easy for you, but I think it might be helpful.
No, I mean, again, this actually isn't hard for me to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's being in it that's hard, but
Yeah.
talking about it is actually pretty easy for me. So, like, I feel totally fine talking about this, and, like, I think you're right, like, because if I could, like, let's say, you messaged me the other day, and I didn't know what to say, I could just be like, "Yep, I'm delusional," But, like, if I were to say that to you
I would
now,
never like I know.
you're
Now
like,
it makes sense, but I'm like,
"What?"
"What?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Right.
if I could have some words to use around it where it's like, because like, I always say, like, I'm hermitizing, but, like, it's just kind of like it's a lot to it's a mouthful. Um,
But also hermitizing sounds cozy to me,
mm,
and it doesn't sound like that's a cozy feeling to you.
I think there was this play, and I can't remember if it's Arcadia,
Mm.
where there was a guy who was a hermit, and his life was just awful and, like, isolated
Mm.
and
Mm.
very singular and lonely. So whenever I think of a hermit, I always think of that character,
Okay.
and it's this, like, little hunched over person in, like, a hut that's just by themselves and, like,
Yeah.
completely cloistered from the world.
'Cause,
Um,
like, when you talk about it now, I sort of think when you're saying hermitizing, it's sort of like that movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, and you're,
mm,
like, alone with your volleyball on an island, and there's no way to get off. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, you're stuck somewhere that's just, like, awful.
And, like, I think that, like, I kinda wonder if, like, hermitizing, like, there's a part of me that kind of goes inward to sort of
Mm.
calm myself. But then,
Mhm.
like, yeah, if I then become marooned on an island, that's
Yeah.
when, that's when it's not good. That's when
Like,
you start, like,
Is Wilson the volleyball now your best friend or not, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know what the but
yeah,
the idea that, like, she's talking about, like, it's so hard, at these different stages, and this is probably something we can go more into another time, is, like, looking at how you are and behave at each of these rungs, like, really one of them is this idea of, like, being able to be, um, your relation to others, including your pets. And like when you don't have, like you were saying, you didn't have grace for your dogs, you didn't have any space for them to be who they are normally, right? Like then that's at this rung, like it helps you to know at least, oh wow, this is where I'm at
yeah.
right now, and your people around you too to know like, okay, let's see, thinking of strategies would be, I think, helpful also.
I think it's interesting, like, I wonder if the strategies that we're talking about really are for the people around us, like, around me, because like, I never remember the strategy in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the strategies you remembered was to ask your AI,
Mm,
which I
that's
really
true.
liked that, but also, like, you're right, I think there are things that, like, Brian might have been able to do or I might have been able to do this last couple weeks that we just haven't really put a plan in place around that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm very curious about this. This seems very interesting to me, how this ladder might be, and maybe you have different words for it. You know what I mean? Like you do for most things. But that maybe everyone has their own words for these ladders, the
Yeah.
stages. Maybe the stages do or don't exist the way we think that she has them as well. But maybe there's a piece of this that, like, if we explore a little further, we might have some more words to help us, because I
Well,
love the term butler. I think that's been really helpful. Like that means that your prefrontal cortex doesn't tell you to do the things that people who are more neurotypical does. And I think what level your butler works or doesn't work might be very different between people. And maybe everyone has some, pieces that might function better than others. But when you're telling me you're laying there and you don't think of anything, nothing's coming in your brain, that's just so different than my experience when I'm laying there. And that helps me to understand also what the difference is. Like, it's not so much to say disorder, but difference is
yeah.
really important to know, right? Like, how your brain works and how my brain works are very different.
Well,
And
and
so, what
even
we should expect of each other would be different
right.
necessarily.
And even in, like, the ADHD world, like, it's very possible that Brian may have ADHD, we don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him about, like, he was asking me, like, "So do you like, when you're laying in bed, like, and you're getting up in the morning, what do you think about?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like, my ow, my body hurts,"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, "But you don't have" he's like, "You don't have a list of things going on in your head?" And I was like, "No, I don't. Like, I have
Yeah.
literally nothing in my head." And if anything, I have just like these thoughts of like, Megan, you're so dumb. Like, why can't you just like, why, of course
Mm-hmm.
you don't have anything in your head. Like, or of course you're just laying here and being a lazy person. And he was like, whoa, like that's so different than what I experienced. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I was just undeniably ADHD. Every freaking one.
Oh, I love you so.
I love you too.
All right. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, I'm excited to move over this further
Yeah,
next week.
agreed.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. We're continuing our series focusing around the book Your Brain is Not Broken by Tamara Rosier. If you enjoyed the episode as much as we enjoyed navigating emotional health ladder with each other, please share it with someone you think could benefit from the conversation. Make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to so that you can be notified each week, because next week we're going to do a deeper dive into the rungs of the ADHD emotional health ladder. Maybe we'll even rename a few steps, because of my silly whimsical brain. But until then, here's to a great end of the week, and remember to stay curious. Is that really like fast?
It was just, I think you said reek instead of week. But other than
Yeah,
that, but I don't care.
I think it's fine, right?
I think it's great.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Okay.